was a good month. I had like 5 auditions.
I've always managed to get the role that I've auditioned for.
I have yet to get a role that I've auditioned for.
As much as, I just said, oh, well, I didn't go to auditions that often anymore.
There's just so much competition.
For Midsummer Jersey, and I recited a poem.
It's not like a driver's test where you blew through a red light. Oh, you're over.
You have to get to know the people walking into your space.
Half the work is showing up.
I just hope I get it right.
The last thing I auditioned for was actually to become a tour guide. I haven't been doing a lot of auditioning recently.
The last thing I auditioned for was 6th Street's general auditions.
General auditions at Spreckles.
Oh, I did the general auditions at the Raven.
Adam's Family, at Spreckles. I went to their generals and I was called back for it. Originally to be part of the ensemble and to be an ancestor. But when I got to the callbacks, they kept me and I ended up reading and singing for Wednesday.
When I first moved here, the only way they would let me direct, I moved here in 2000, and the only way they would let me direct anything was they needed me as an actor first, so that was my way of getting my foot in the door. So the first thing I did was Angels in America, over at what was called Actors Theater at the time.
I reached this odd point in my career where, because I've worked so many different theater companies and for so long up here, so I get contacted a lot, or I will contact people. Hey, I see you're doing this show, and this show, and your general auditions are coming up. Do you want me to come to the general audition, or would you like me to just contact you again when these 3 shows are coming up? And very often they'll say, oh, just come to the callbacks. We'll let the director know you're interested.
I auditioned for this summer stock theater called Prather, and it had been my first audition in like a month.
Well, it depends on the time of year. So this is the spring, towards the end of the spring seems like when most theaters are doing their general auditions now. So I try to hit those.
2 or 3?
I'll try and go to like 4 or 5 auditions a month.
First of all, you can't do more than, 5-ish plays a year anyway, because there's not enough time in the calendar to do more than that. Right.
I did the North Bay Generals, and then I did the Generals for Raven and Spreckles and 6th Street.
In a week, anywhere from 0 to 1, depending on who's holding auditions.
It kind of depends. Audition season everything tends to get scheduled in like one clump, and then there'll be like 2 months, and then there's another clump.
Yeah. Especially for guys, if they need a guy, often they'll call around. Are you available? I need a guy. Or hey, somebody just quit my show. We open in 3 weeks.
God, I went on like 6 auditions in like 2 weeks. I had 2 in one day. It's good times. 2
of those auditions were the same day.
Any year, because I'm a community actor and I have a standard day job, I do probably about 5 at most.
I would say like between 5 and a dozen a year.
That's being very generous.
Because I went down to San Francisco and did the Theater Bay Area general auditions, and from that I got a few callbacks from that, so I definitely did like 4 or 5 auditions within the space of a couple of weeks.
I do audition a lot. I think I audition probably 6 or 7 times a year, maybe.
Singing auditions, and probably about 5 this month.
Anywhere from like 1 a week to like 5 or 6 a week, or more or less. It's so up in the air.
When I was acting more, I would go to any audition I saw anywhere, and I would take almost any part for a while.
So I wouldn't say I get the role all the time, but I get the roles that I think are meant for me at that point in time, I guess.
I've been pretty fortunate.
Not very often.
I tend to have a pretty good track record of getting stuff that I've auditioned for.
Probably about 40% successful.
Percentage?
Yeah.
10 to 30?
I would say the same, like 40 or 50%.
Well, there's the general audition process, and then there's the callback process. A fair amount of the roles I get called back for, I'll get.
About 75% of the time.
Half the time, I guess. I don't know the numbers, but sometimes it was fairly frequent, sometimes it was not at all.
But maybe 50% of the time.
When I wasn't in New York,
Been surprisingly often.
more frequently for sure. Then when I moved to New York and started auditioning there, I'd say like 1% of the time.
Yes. I have auditioned for I don't know how many things in this last year and gotten 2. Which is really fun. But then prior to that, I have been in this community for so long. I have quite a lot of connections and spent the last year just kind of being asked to do stuff, which was a glaring contrast from, a full year of work where it was just easy and then this. But, it moves in waves.
Surprisingly often.
Often.
Okay.
But again, that wasn't always the case.
I do feel very fortunate for the opportunities that I have been given.
Yeah, no, I would say I mostly got roles I was auditioning for on the stage.
I've never rejected a role that I've been offered.
I've rejected roles on a couple occasions, but typically I tend to accept the roles that I'm offered because I think every experience that, I get to perform only helps me become better at it.
Not a couple times.
I've recently had to learn to say no. I would say yes to like everything.
Just because you're so grateful.
Yeah, it's like, of course, yes, and then like...
I think I did that twice.
It's really weird.
It's because it feels like you're so excited to get this role, then you have to like slow down and think about, can my life actually accommodate this extra 30 hours a week that I'm going to be needing to give?
Once in the last year, and that was due to I was offered another role in another show and it conflicted.
I've rejected one role. I've rejected a few.
I've rejected one role because I was anxious.
I can't remember if I've done that yet. Usually, like if I get a callback for something and I go to the callback, then it's because I want to do the show. I'm not someone who would go to a callback if I'm not sure that I would want to take it if I get it. I have turned down offers to audition for things. So like some people, sometimes I'll get an email from someone, a director or casting director, asking me to audition for something, and I have turned those down if it seems like it would be too far of a drive or something I don't want to do, or yada yada.
I'm usually pretty careful about auditioning for things when I feel like I would be able to accept.
And I've had a few people approach me for films that they want to do, and sometimes I've even met with them, and then I get the script and I'm like, I can't do this. Heard that like you should never, especially when you're starting out, really turn down any role, because it could be an opportunity to meet someone, it could be, a great exposure. You never know if that person is going to become big. But sometimes when you know, and like if the script is just god awful, like you don't want to be a part of that. So
30 to 50% of the roles that I'm offered, but usually it's because of a conflict.
Not often.
Talking to people right now about things for next June. It's 13 months from now. It's crazy. It's crazy.
I always like being a part of the process, so it's like, good, I'll be a spirit carrier. I'm okay with that. Yeah.
Asking, hey Sam, do you want to be part of South Pacific? We need some more sailors. And of course my actor instincts that are always wanting to do more and put more shows on my resume, we're thinking, yes, do it, put another show on the resume. Meanwhile, my body was like, Sam, you are going to kill me.
Once in a while. It has to be something, because it's a huge time commitment. It's over a 3-month commitment to do a play in this community, right? You have to rehearse for weeks and weeks, and then you're running, and so it has to be something that I'm passionate about. It has to be with people that I want to work with, and the compensation has to help too, because I'm my own. I don't have a partner.
It's only happened a few times. It was usually just because I didn't feel like I was right for the role, and I didn't want to put anyone through that.
Pink Panther movie. There was originally a Pink Panther movie. What was it called? I can't remember. It was a play, and I auditioned, and I got at a community theater in Santa Maria, and it was a summer production. I auditioned for. It was like 1979 or something. I got cast as this office grunt, and then I ended up, the guy who played the lead dropped out 2 weeks before we opened, and they gave the role to me, the lead. Because I knew all the lines because I was on stage with them the whole time.
Well, my first time performing was with Sonoma City Opera, and I was in the chorus and Barbarina's understudy for the production of The Marriage of Figaro.
So this is a funny story. So I was in New York, and I worked for the New York Gilbert and Sullivan.
We'll just say outdoor drama Tecumseh. We'll go with that.
They needed this important but obscure. It was like the story mover. He's one of the characters' lawyer, and 0 lines.
In Chillicothe, Ohio.
Walk on, gesture at a paper and walk off. And the hysterical thing was that my wife at the time was in the ensemble. She works her tail off in the ensemble, and then I get to think about what's supporting. I had no lines, no songs, no numbers.
When I was a teenager, I was cast as a player in Pippin at Center of the Players, back when there was a Center of the Players, and I was so excited. I thought I was going to explode.
I think I'd say I did a film, like a student film or a private film that I got paid for, and that was, I think, my first thing kind of out of school.
So the first production I was involved with, not as a director, but more as I think this could be more than what it is, was a choral production I was involved in. I wanted to expand on the Let's Stand on the Risers and Sing concept, and so I went to the choir director and said, hey, I have an idea for some sets or for some backdrops for this, and we're doing 2 separate sets of music. We're doing a secular set and then a more popular set, and so it's split into actually 2 acts, if you will, and so I can switch the mood of the whole thing with some set pieces. And he said, well, fine, but you're not going to be funded. You're going to need to figure out a way to fund that.
No. What I did in grade school is that I would organize the neighborhood children and create plays and direct them and star in them with all my neighborhood friends. Yeah, and we would put on plays for our families.
My first part, I played the prodigal son in a church play.
4th or 5th grade, we did some medieval some or other.
I had a rap.
You know rap?
It was in the 90s. It was 1999 when rap was just getting really popular.
We did an improvisation of Macbeth.
And my mom made me this town crier outfit, like the king was a kid in jeans and a white t-shirt with a paper crown. And I was legit. I showed up with this absurd, professional theater costume. And everyone was like, what's up with the Asian kid in the medieval town? What's happening anymore?
Grade school, it was in England, and I was offered the part of Oliver in the play, the school play. Nice. And I turned it down. And I was going home on the school bus, and then I thought, that was a daft thing to do, because I think it'd be a lot of fun. So the next morning I went back in and I said, okay, yes, I would like to be Oliver. And they cast it to somebody else. And then they offered me part of Charlie Bay's.
I actually went to a school where we learned through theater. So we put on a show about every topic,
Okay.
and that's how we learned, which was great. I only remember things through song now.
That's interesting.
The first thing I remember auditioning for was the Nutcracker.
Okay.
First play or musical I remember auditioning for was a show, melodrama in high school.
My first audition, so I'm not gonna lie, this is not a memory that I have. My mom has told this story to me many times, and so I think it's really hilarious. I don't know, it was like some traveling troupe that would come through and do shows, and apparently I was maybe 6 or 7, and my mom took me and then 2 of my friends to go audition for this thing, and apparently like I got cut and like just cried and was so upset.
Oh man, the first thing I ever auditioned for was in college. I didn't know what the heck I was doing. I walked in for, I don't even remember what it was. It was like a contemporary drama, and I showed up with the opening monologue from Richard III. Like, did not know what I was doing.
The first thing I auditioned for was in high school. No, junior high school. It was for Snoopy and Your Good Man Charlie Brown, and I did not get the part.
Aww.
No, I was not even cast in the play.
Oh.
So yeah, but I didn't let that stop me. I continued singing and auditioning for stuff in high school and junior high and high school.
Okay.
Yeah.
They asked me to do some improv exercises, and I was terrible at it. And the guy who was directing, the auditor, he was someone that I knew from the dorms. And, we maintained a very good relationship, but we never spoke about the day ever again. It was dreadful. I didn't even get a no thanks.
It was in junior high for Annie. When I really wanted Annie, and I remember working really, really hard, and I didn't get it, and I was really, really bummed. But they gave me Star to Be, which has that so like NYC just got here this morning, that whole like solo bit, because they liked my voice, and that was like the first time I auditioned. But then they gave me I didn't get the part I wanted, but I got a fun singing role, and I'm like,
awesome.
That's fun.
Yeah, freshman year of high school, I tried out to be in Once Upon a Mattress, the school musical, and I was not cast.
I think my first one was in high school, freshman year. There was this thing with my school, they only did Shakespeare.
I kind of just showed up to a rehearsal. They were doing The Tempest. And I'm like, hey, do you want any more bodies? They're like, great, yeah.
It was in high school, and it was my senior year Christmas production, which I wrote, directed, costumed, built sets for, and auditioned people to be in the Christmas play. It's working within the parameters of a Christmas pageant, It's like, but I think we could do this a little bit differently. So yeah, short of bringing in live animals, it was a pretty awesome show.
It was a production of Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe, and there were tons of kids. And I remember watching one of the kids audition, and like they did something really unusual. Like it was like you're supposed to improv something. They did something that was so cool. I'm like, oh my god, how do you know how to do that? And I didn't get in it, but I could. That was the first time I realized that some people could audition really well.
Charlotte's Web.
Charlotte's Web. I was in 3rd grade.
Oftentimes it's the role that I'm working on. Currently I'm Fräulein Schneider in Cabaret, and I'm loving her, and she's becoming is a favorite. But if I had to choose one, I'd probably say Mother Jones from Mother Jones in Heaven. It was an original piece, and I played Mother Jones, who was 100 years old when she died, and she wakes up in heaven, and heaven is an Irish pub. And I got to tell her story, and she was a remarkable woman, and it was the first thing that I did after my husband died. So it was very much a life preserver for me. It was helped me get back into theater when I thought that I never would again. So that was important.
There's the actual material, there's the text, there's, if you're in a musical, there's the music. There's the cast that you're cast in. If it's a family, if it feels like you all come together and really make something that's lasting.
So Anselmo and Man of La Mancha because it was my first mountain play, my first outside of school theatrical experience. But my favorite role that I've done was probably the doctor next to me.
The people you play opposite, if there's chemistry, if there's kindness and support and connection. The director.
Well, I recently played Rita in White Christmas, and that was a good actor challenge for me because her character, she is your run-of-the-mill 1950s promiscuous blonde chorus girl.
I have a lot of favorite roles. Guinevere in Camelot, that was just like the top.
How about that?
Sound of Music on the Mountain. Literally, there's no other place better to sing The Hills Are Alive with the sound of music than on top of a mountain.
Cliff Anderson in Death Trap. It's a show about these guys writing a show about the situation that they're in while it's happening. So they don't know how it's going to end because the play is still going on.
I think my favourite role was Sir Robin's family, because it was just so much fun.
My favorite roles was Lucy, Threepenny Opera, which, God, that was such a fun role. It was just so, because it was Brecht, so it's just like so weird and out there and dark, and so it felt like it just, the role just like fit like a glove.
I think Miss Constance from Miss Lydia Hinckley gives a bird the bird.
Probably this, Wendy. Dream role.
I'm pretty sure the playwright is James Still. It's a 10-minute one act of these women in the 1800s Indiana. They create this book club as a way to escape from their lives, to be their own people.
Probably from the This Is Such a Blast to Do, Harold Hill and Music Man. Great role. Super fun. I always try and keep my eyes and ears open and my mouth shut because I figure, in everything in life, if you just pay attention, you'll learn something.
I would have to say Valentine, the doll from Mary Poppins, because I loved making children cry every night.
I felt like I learned a lot as Sefton in Stalag 17. So
Really enjoyed playing Cecily Pigeon in The Odd Couple because she was an absolute hoot.
I played Pseudolus in Funny Thing That Happened on the Way to the Forum.
Wow. Probably.
And yet, I could not have done that show. We could not have been as successful as we were with that show. It would not have been as fun as it was without the amazing ensemble that we had in that. I mean, we were ready to open like a week, 2 weeks ahead of time. That never happens, especially in musicals.
I think the one that stuck with me the most in a lot of ways was Leon Czolgosz in Assassins. I've been lucky enough to do that show twice now, and I feel like I grew exponentially between the two, which was really neat, especially with its really rich material. So it's one that, even though it's not the longest show or the biggest part, there's a lot of stuff underneath it so it was really neat to kind of come back to it, build on what I had done before, but then find more things.
Tom and Glass Menagerie. I didn't audition for that, but it was usually I get cast as comic relief and a lot of background supporting stuff, and even in lead roles, it's very like slapsticky kind of stuff. So it's very rare if you look at everything that I get to do, where I can just be normal and not be gimmicky or walk with a limp or some joke. And
View from the Bridge last year. I loved that play, one. It was a great cast, and the overall production, the whole idea was such a satisfying experience that I would rate that. A Long Day's Journey into Night, at what used to be the Actors Theater before they merged and became 6th Street.
I got to play Willy Wonka. That was cool. That was neat to be like a headliner in something.
Was the complete works of William Shakespeare abridged at Santa Rosa Players.
Lou in Welcome Home, Jenny Sutter. And it was really a challenging role for me, in part because it was had a lot of similarities with the character, but then trying to make it different. And she had this huge range of emotions and being different in different scenes. And
yeah, I mean, I've had favorite things about lots of different roles that I've done, but I don't know that I've had a go-to role that I wish I could do that again, or that was such a great experience. I mean, they were all good experiences for different reasons.
My favorite role was playing Elle in Legally Blonde, because that was a role that I know as an actor, in New York, that I will never be cast as, ever.
It's usually the current one. Because I think you have to feel that way about your work. I think you need to get to that point where, oh my God, this is my favorite thing that I'm doing in my life right now.
Right. That's tough. I think what I'm doing right now will top them all. Patsy Cline, always Patsy Cline. I loved playing Fontaine though. I'd talk about a dream role.
The show that I'm doing right now, always Patsy Cline.
That was just a very challenging role for a lot of reasons, but I just loved it.
And Little Women. I think Little Women at Spreckles was...
Playing someone real is a whole different thing. I love it because you have so much to draw from.
Right.
So yeah, that's definitely in my top 3.
It would have to be a tie between 2 because my favorite role in the world and a role that I could probably play for the rest of my life is the baker's wife from Into the Woods. She's just, for me, like the perfect character, and it's my favorite show called Metamorphosis. We have a pool on stage. I did many different stories, and one of them was playing Alcyone.
Spamalot, just because it's great, silly fun.
I don't really have a least favorite role
that I could say out loud anyway.
Yeah, none.
In that sort of objective sense, there are no bad roles.
No, because if I'm not having fun, I don't do it.
Okay. If you can take away something from it that makes you a better person or a better actor or a better director, then it's a learning experience.
I don't think I have a least favorite role. I usually enjoy every show I work on.
However, I will say that there was one production.
Yeah, it was a challenging experience, and I don't want to name names.
Right. Things started happening sort of on the back of house.
Yes, there was one. It was extremely challenging.
That made it difficult to go to the theater.
So there are roles that I wouldn't repeat. There are not roles that I've been like, I cannot believe I did this and this is the worst thing I've ever done.
The only times I've had regrets is when I didn't accept a role.
I did one show here in LA that was super disorganized and just really frustrating, and the cast actually had to come together and basically block the entire show because nothing was getting done.
The script and the other people in the show, so if you're with the cast that doesn't lift you up, or you're with leads that don't lift you up, it's not going to be a fun role to play.
How many auditions have I done?
In my life?
Ever?
Oh man.
Oh dear God. I have no idea.
Several dozen. I don't know how many, but a lot.
2 dozen.
15?
That would be about the same number of plays that I've been in.
Ever?
I guess about 50.
More than 50, less than 100.
30 or 40 different auditions?
Definitely nearing 100 more.
Probably 100. Okay. Yeah.
60? 50, 60?
I guess, I don't know what's a lot. I've done a lot.
Like between 20 and 50 maybe?
25 this year.
Probably about 50 plays, so there's all of those.
Probably nearer than 100.
A number of industrial films, made a lot of commercials.
30, 20.
Had about 3 small roles in regular theatrical movies. 70.
Yeah, 15, 20.
In my lifetime, 15. Safe to say 100 auditions.
Hundreds.
Do I enjoy the process of auditioning?
No.
Yes. It's kind of scary, but I like it. I've learned to love it.
I don't mind it. In actual fact, someone would say I'm a bit of a show-off.
I will say that the reason I don't enjoy it is because it reveals the things about myself that I don't like. From a business sense.
It's a good answer.
From a business sense. That's what I don't like about it.
I do. Yeah, it's fun just to be able to, you know, see what you can do with this character and this role for just 5 minutes and...
You're being judged, and that is, it's never comfortable.
I don't like that when I'm getting ready for a musical audition, I very often feel like it's been too long since I took a good vocal lesson.
It's essential. Yes and no. I like callbacks. I like callbacks way more than I like just regular monologue auditions.
I do now. I didn't like it when I was younger. I found it very intimidating, and I didn't think I was very good at it, and I would try too hard.
Because I don't feel like I have to supply as much. You know, I can just kind of, they're giving me the text, and I can just sort of come in and have fun with it and try new things and act opposite people.
There are two aspects to auditioning or getting a part. The first is just the general audition, where you have to bring something to the table, you have to bring either a monologue or a song, or a monologue and a song, so that people can see who you are and see if you can have the talent to actually take on a role.
Yes, actually, because when I went, I did theater training in high school, and I did theater training in the junior college, and all of those techniques that they train you for, as I see it, are teaching you what to do when things go wrong. And it's a lot easier to fix things when you're the one messing up. So, or at least when you're the only one on stage.
That you're hoping for is to be part of the callback process, where you actually get to read sides from the play or the movie for a specific part.
Auditioning, I just get so nervous, and like I overthink it. I know I do that so much, so I'm really glad when the casting director gives me like maybe multiple chances, where like I can do it multiple ways. Because then the first one I mess it up, so I just get it out.
So those are the two steps. The other type of auditioning is where they just basically want to see if you can, what you look like and how you sound. And those are frustrating because, you either have it or you don't, and there's really not much you can do to change someone's mind.
It just becomes, to me, it's like a learning process, and I go in to just kind of be like, okay, I'm gonna have a good time.
The process leading up to auditioning is extremely nerve-wracking, not just because you're literally going to go do something and be judged by people, but also you're trying to figure out, they generally have fairly vague guidelines, and so you're trying to figure out, oh, should I sing this song, should I do this monologue, what am I trying to showcase, and you're constantly second-guessing yourself and overthinking everything.
No.
I do. I think that auditioning, even if you don't get into a show, it's a great learning experience.
There is nothing more nerve-wracking to me than auditioning. It is so scary. It is so scary because I feel like at some point someone is going to realize that I'm a total fraud.
As an actor?
Yes.
No.
Now I do. It took a lot of years to get to that point.
I didn't used to. It used to terrify me, and I used to hate it.
As a director, I love watching auditions. Which makes me a really good person to audition for because I totally empathize with what you're going through while you're auditioning. I've been there, and I know it's not, you're putting yourself on the line, and I totally get all of that.
And do it for me, and that not competing with anybody else, just competing with myself, and trying to be best me instead of anybody else.
When I realized it wasn't a competition.
Don't show up to auditions in cut-off jeans or dirty clothing or with your hair looking like you haven't slept in days. Yeah. So put yourself together, put your best self forward,
And I also realized that it's a whole separate art form from performing, and it's one where it has to be for me. Like, I have to find a way to enjoy it, otherwise it's just heartbreaking.
Your audition begins the minute you walk in the room, not once you start your piece.
No!
No, I don't. That's not true. I don't like a general audition. I think that's just, I don't think anyone does, or rarely people do. But I do like the callback process. I like being challenged. It's what I like about acting. I like being directed.
No, and I really should. The thing about, I keep shoulding myself too. Never should yourself.
I could even give like maybe objectively a stronger audition than someone else, and it doesn't necessarily mean I deserve that role.
When you're an actor, you need to like auditioning because that's really your career.
Oh no, absolutely not. I hate it with every fiber of my being. Which is maybe why I'm not doing it a ton right now. I just sort of needed a break.
Currently, no, I don't like auditioning, but my goal moving forward is to love auditioning.
There are ups and downs, definitely, to the entire auditioning process.
My process for preparing an audition.
Doubt, self-doubt. No, just kidding.
Man, it's kind of down to a science now, especially having a toddler at home. Like, I have to know what I need. Oh gosh. And when I realized that I like really had a process, it was the first audition I gave after having Charlotte. When I realized, like, I just like, oh my god, like my resume is not up to date. Like,
So it all starts with finding material. And that's, I try to read plays, keep track of when I'm watching plays, is there a part in this that I might be able to, that might have a monologue, for a character in my type that I could kind of keep an eye out on.
I always shake hands with everyone who is in the room, so the directors that are there. I'll always go up and introduce myself and shake their hand. And then I immediately feel better. I always feel better if I've looked somebody in the eye and shaken their hand.
like, so, okay, there's the resume. You have to make sure that it's up to date. You have to make sure your printer works. You have to make sure your laptop is, like, still functional.
A poem that I fall back on is a monologue. It's a bit of a song, and I think that it's easier to learn a song and then present that as a monologue than it is to try and to learn a monologue which doesn't have music.
Like all the copies of my resume and like headshot, and someone was like, "That looks great. By the way, there's a typo in like this theater."
I'll try to find something that I haven't done before in a play. I'll try to do something that I'm interested in doing, something that's also age appropriate, and something that I may be cast in.
If it's a general, I tend to use the same material that I use over most general auditions. I feel like if you get, 2 songs and 2 monologues really down, as long as you're not repeating them for the same company year after year after year, it's good to like get the material locked in and use that everywhere, because that feels like, that's a good representation of you.
There's the functional, like the materials. You have to have the materials. If it's a musical, you have to have your sheet music. So, and I have it in a binder, and I have it double punched, and I have it marked, and all of that stuff.
Usually I see if there's any specific requirements.
The appearance part, like, now I have the dress, like I've been complimented on the dress. It's like the only nice dress I own.
Usually I will block it out, emotionally make sure I have very clear beats and changes within the monologue or within the song.
The debate, like which shoes to wear, a debate about like whether or not to wear like nylons. Like it's ridiculous. Like these little things, like do I have a razor? Like do I have to shave?
I do a lot of analysis on it, in terms of, obviously read the play. Got to read the play.
And it's very important to know the show that you're auditioning for, so if you're getting called back for something, you know the characters and you know where they are in the show, and you know what part of the emotional journey they're on.
Like, where's my makeup? Where are my contacts? Am I out of contacts? Like, ridiculous things down to here, right? Makeup, like, where's the mascara? Do I still, like, why does mascara smells funny? I need to buy new mascara because I haven't worn this for, like, years.
Once that's in place, and you have that basis in place, then it's the layering of the characters and layering the verbiage and trying different things.
I like to have a song and monologue that are very different than each other. So having like a upbeat, happy song and a dramatic monologue, or vice versa. plethora of songs that I pick from. The monologue, I have to agree with Corey, it's really difficult finding a monologue that really fits.
Making sure that I have the text memorized.
If you don't have all that other stuff in place, if you kind of look like a schlub and your materials aren't good and you walk in and give like a great audition, they think, okay, well they have the talent, but if they don't have all the other pieces involved, like how do we know they're really professional and understand what's required?
The callback stage, that's fine. I like reading sides. Right. But choosing the right monologue and choosing the right song, I think are underestimated.
Like if they just want a song, I'll select that and prepare it. I usually prepare it with my teacher, Tina.
Go through my very, very small list of things that I can do already.
At least understanding the script, knowing what the sides are, how you feel the character's journey is in that moment.
I warm up my voice and I have some vocal warm-ups on my phone.
Because really in the audition room, what the director wants to see is the choices that you've made.
Yeah, and then I do some acting exercises on the way there, like.
And then, when direction is given, how you can change from your choices to what their choices are.
If they're looking for a song, I'll try and pick a song that isn't from the show, but is from the same composer. If I can't pull the same composer, I'll look at the same period.
Well, but you're not really supposed to do a song from the show. I don't really know why. That's supposedly the rule.
Sometimes I'll sing a song straight from the show if I think that I'm really right for one specific role. So I'll practice a lot with that.
I think it's odd to do things from the show.
I try to find a song that sounds like it. And then the thing is, do a song also that shows the director, oh, actually, yeah, I can picture this guy in that part now that I'm hearing him sing a song that sounds similar.
And then I schedule a practice with my vocal coach and practice my song that like a whole bunch of times. If I could schedule more than one, I definitely can. Same thing with an acting coach, just to fine tune everything.
And then ego boosts, like saying like this is gonna be, pumping yourself up, kind of, is another thing that I do.
And then the day of the audition, I don't drink anything but hot water with honey and lemon.
I kind of recognize I definitely overthink it.
You never know exactly what's going to happen the day of, so you don't want to be like, I need to do it this way specifically, and if I don't, it's going to be terrible.
Because words have 8,000 different ways they can be said, and so if I just say it exactly how I say it every time, I'm kind of restraining myself.
A song that I feel like fits best with the show. I'll listen to some of the music from the show. It's something that I don't know.
I have like a whole book of songs that I've used 15 years or more. That's a long time. But it's true.
Finding a monologue that's age appropriate and it's so difficult because most of them are just random things that aren't even from shows.
And then timing. Trying not to make it the rhythm of the piece, and make it either too long or too short or too draggy. Or
take the actual text and I'll record it. I'll record it super slow, and then a little faster, and then speed through speed, and then take those 3 tracks and I'll just listen to them while I commute.
So the last audition I had, I found a monologue a week before, and it was terrible.
Yeah.
Vocally warm up.
I videotape myself just to see how I move, what my facial expressions are like.
Stretching.
I was in an audition group that puts you in groups of 10.
Doing a relaxation is the most important so that you're calm when you go into the room and you can be present.
So of the 7 guys,
I've also been on the other side of the table in directing, and also I'm the assistant casting director at Lucky Penny.
3 of the 7 guys all sang the same song. At the first round, where you pick any song in the universe.
So my personal process when auditioning as a director, when looking at auditioners, I certainly have read the script and reread the script and reread the script and reread the script. And so I have an idea of what I think the relationship is between the characters, how they interact with each other.
Like, you know what, worse than going over is when people try to cram it in, they speed up, and they rush through their monologue. Like, better to give me a 30-second wonderful standalone piece than to rush.
That's what I'm starting with. So then, through the audition process, I find an actor that I'm interested in for a particular role, and I think, oh, you know, that'd be a good fit. And so then, once you've made that leap, then that changes what you're looking at in the rest of the audition, because now you've decided this is the right actor for this role. So now it becomes more of there's a physical thing that you need to take into consideration. How do they look together?
I tend to black out. I walk into the audition room, I walk out, and I can't remember what I just did.
As the wife, and she's 6 foot tall, then I certainly can't cast a 5'7" actor to play the husband. Right. Why, you may ask? Because it just doesn't play well. You know, I should, you know, overcome those prejudices and be able to have short men and tall women. But you know, it's just, you're painting a picture as a director. Then you're looking for physical type, but you're looking for that thing that clicks between actors.
I used to have a notebook that had all my classical pieces, all my modern pieces, and I have lost that notebook. So.
Both. I'm gonna be cheap and say both.
I prefer comedy,
You can play angry, enraged, or slightly miffed.
but it'd be really nice to do drama.
In comedy, you have to deliver something a certain way to get the laugh.
Comedy's hard. it's a challenge. It depends on the drama, and it depends on the subject matter. There's some dramas out there that are just really dry or old, or the ideas are kind of passé. Newer dramas are more exciting. Comedies tend to hold up depending, over the years.
Comedy's really hard.
Just the scope and breadth of emotions that you can explore in drama is very appealing.
No, I'm serious. Drama is easier.
Contrary to a lot of people, comedy is hard.
Bust out some tears and be fine. But making people laugh is a lot harder.
It depends on the play, honestly. I love good plays.
I mean, if we're speaking of musical comedy, good, golden, great. I love it. But straight comedy in play form is hard.
I like both. I think there's drama in comedy, and I think things that are truly funny can also be very tragic.
I like dramedy. I like both.
But I have fallen in love with comedy. I think it's far more challenging.
As an actor, I want to be versatile.
But there's not an audible reaction that you're expecting, right? And in comedy and it's why like stand-up comedians I think are like aliens. I don't know how they do what they do.
They said, okay, it's your turn. So I get up on stage, and there were maybe 4 or 5 people out there, and they were eating.
Worst audition experience?
The entire time I was auditioning. And so somebody said, okay, go. So I started my audition. They were talking and eating through my entire piece.
Once Upon a Mattress.
And I was pissed. I was really angry at them. And so a year goes by, and I decide to go and audition again. And I didn't get in. But that's another story.
The teacher said to me, she was like, oh, you have an amazing voice. You're a terrible actress. I was like...
Is that a year later, I went back. Same thing. They're eating, they're talking. And so I stood on the stage, and I decided that this was mine, that the stage was mine. And I waited until somebody noticed that I was just standing there not talking. And they turned to me, they said, are you ready? And very politely I said, I am, are you? And they put their food down and they said, yes, proceed. And I got their attention.
It was a singing audition for Fantastics, which I didn't know anything about really. I knew it was a musical, that's all I knew. I prepared a Barry Manilow song that had a whole bunch of whole notes. I had the cassette of Barry Manilow singing the song, and I played it in my car. And so that's how I was singing along to that, but of course the sheet music is in a different key, so when they started playing, also when I was at a cold. So I already couldn't really hear myself singing. It was a disaster.
Occasionally I'll get a call back and I'm not really good at reader of text.
My worst audition was my first audition for the theater I generally work at, which is Spreckles. I didn't know what to do. It was my first real big audition, and I didn't know to introduce my name, and I didn't know when to start singing. So it felt like I was sitting there for like 10 minutes, just like, I don't know what to do, but it was probably like 30 seconds. So that was pretty terrible.
I've had auditions where you're just really trying to be the character, try to read it at the same time, fumble over words, and it just comes out flat. Or me, it doesn't show anything. That's common.
It goes back to being unprepared. It's a really unfun feeling when you get there, and I kind of realize when you're in the moment, I don't really know what I'm doing on this particular piece. I haven't worked this enough.
And worst audition?
Was I started an audition. They said, "Here, read this," and I went, "Okay," and I went and I looked at my scene partner, and the director and the musical director got up and walked out of the room. And so I read this scene with this other person, with like the choreographer watching, and then the director came back and was like, "Okay, thank you," and I was like, "You didn't watch. Do you want me to do it again?" He was like, "No, thank you."
Sides were so confusing. Like, the scene, I was talking to like 4 different people, there were 4 different people in the room, and I was like referring to them, but I was only talking to one person, and then like someone would come in the middle of the scene. It was just so complicated.
I went into audition for Frozen at Disneyland.
I looked up and I totally lost my spot, and I was just like fumbling and like trying to get back on track.
Sign-in starts at 9. You gotta get there by like 6:37.
One of the producers or casting directors, whoever was sitting there, they're like, "Okay, thank you," and I was like,
But the people who are union, they get to go first before everybody else.
I was in one recently where, you hand your sheet music to the piano player, and she's never seen it before. Okay, so she's playing it, and we got off.
Usually you're in like the 50s or 60s for your number. And so then you have to wait until like noon or 1 to actually go on audition. So it's a super long day, and the buildup is so difficult. And I was auditioning, and I went in and I sang Someday from The Wedding Singer.
Stop. And the director was really, really nice, and she said, "Oh, okay, we got off there." And then she says to the piano, did you turn a page wrong there? Did you flip too many pages?" And she goes, "Well, he only gave me 2. Oh, it sounded like maybe you jumped a page." And I said, "Oh, that was my fault."
Always crack whenever I sing this song. But I was like, this is perfect. I'm gonna go in and sing this song, and I can do it, it's great. And I went in and I just cracked so bad.
It's not like a pass-fail.
But good auditions are when, I know it's a big deal, and I've had maybe 2 months to prep for a piece. Those auditions are great because they feel good. You're ready to perform.
The best one is always the last one, because you get more comfortable, more confident, and not so many butterflies.
And he gave me some sides for Jasper, who's the villain, to be able to read for a character that I had no idea that I could have been considered for. It was really cool.
I don't have a specific, I can't really think of a specific one, but the best audition is walking out knowing you did your best. Not, well, yeah, I mean, it's great to be like, yeah, I totally got that, but it's more important to me to walk out of it and go, the only reason they're not casting me is because I'm 5'8", and the guy they're thinking about is 5'6".
Making people laugh in an audition is good. It feels good if it's a funny piece. They don't always. That's okay. I know that numerous people who I've talked to who are on the other side of the table say, even if they think it's funny, they will purposely not laugh because that's not what they're there for. They're trying to be objective and not be an audience.
For every really great audition, there's like 7 horrible ones.
I'll have auditions where I'll go in and I'll be like, yeah, I felt really connected. I did a monologue for an audition where I was really connected. I knew what I was talking about and how it related to me.
and I knew who I was talking to.
What keeps popping into my head is when I auditioned for Gina Bravaya a couple years ago, and I auditioned for Ursula, the sea witch in The Little Mermaid. I really wanted that part, and I didn't expect it to be handed to me, so I asked him if I could audition, and he said, well, of course you can. And I worked on my song with Tina, and I showed up to the audition, and my music was on my kitchen table. So I walked in without my music, and Tina is one of the auditors, and I said, well, I forgot my music, and Tina just went, oh, just like face plant in her hand. And I thought, well, it's okay. I said, Tina, what key is it in? Because I was auditioning for people that I knew, so there was a comfort level. So she said, it's in A. So I asked the accompanist to hit an A chord, and I sang the song a cappella. And it was fine. It worked. So that was sort of flying by the seat of my pants. But the monologue was good.
But maybe you're called back for more than one character in the scene. So you'll read like the same scene multiple times but doing different roles. And then maybe the woman in the room here is auditioning for another part, so and her scene is different, but they need somebody to read against her. So even though I'm not been called back for this other part, I'm now going to do another scene with this woman just because she needs another partner in the scene. And so you end up kind of like just doing different parts, and sometimes you don't really know the show very well, and it's really fun because, I mean, you get to be creative and there's no pressure because I'm not going for that part.
Musicals are really fun, but straight plays is like more of a study piece, I think.
Oh, straight play.
I can't say I prefer either. I mean, musicals are amazing if they have some heart and soul.
I go back and forth. I swing both ways. No, it just depends on the material.
I love both of them equally. They both have different things they bring to the table that are fantastic. Some of my favorite experiences doing shows have been straight plays because you get to focus, I think, more on character. But I also love singing.
In both cases, there have been one moment in the rehearsal process where, because of my inexperience, I'm just like, I don't know what I'm doing, and the musical director's like, you're not doing it right. I'm like, okay, how do I do better? I don't know, I'm not a vocal coach, and I'm like,
a musical.
Straight plays or at least I feel like I've got my own roadmap of how to figure out a terrain, as opposed to being plopped down on a desert island and hope to God I don't get eaten alive.
Like, I legitimately didn't believe that my strength was acting. I always thought it was like singing, acting, dancing.
I'd say right now I'm going through a phase where I prefer straight plays. Prefer like small cast straight plays.
I love dancing. I just wish I was better at it.
They both have their merits. I'm a little picky when it comes to musicals, just in terms of my taste. So if a musical is not like up to the standards of what I like or the kind of show that I like, then I can find that a little frustrating.
I seem to have a reputation for directing musical theater, so I would go with that.
Treat the audition as a time where you can perform.
An audition is a way for you to get to show off. Like, be proud, be confident in yourself, be proud of yourself, and come in there prepared and show them what you are made of.
But just going in and showing them what you do and showing them what you love to do.
Be confident in your audition. Act like yourself. Don't be like a nervous little child.
Be aware of timing, because auditions generally have a set amount of time.
I think treat it like a job interview. Don't get too wrapped up in it. Dress as smartly as you can and still be comfortable, especially if there's dancing involved. Try as hard as you can to be a clean slate. Read the words.
Practice. Take the time.
Relax. You know the work. You know if you put work into what you are doing.
Learn the text.
Practice, definitely.
And remember to breathe and take your time.
Don't worry. Don't think. Just know what you're going to do and know your piece. Know your choices.
So even if you mess up, just keep going with it and don't show that you messed up too. Because You don't want to just curse in front of them and storm out of the room because you made one tiny mistake that they're not going to even notice.
To try to stay as relaxed as you can and to be as authentically who you are.
There's no such thing as a good or bad audition.
Because I think especially for, for new or for first time auditioners, there's a tendency to kind of throw it together at the last minute, kind of, learn it right before, and it's like, no, again, treat it like a show.
Prepare. Prepare so you know your stuff better than anyone else could possibly know it.
The preparation happens before, and once you're in there, it's time to just throw that out and just have fun with it. The work that you've done will be the foundation.
And know that when you walk into that room, you're giving your best.
There's so many different factors involved.
Knowing that you're doing your best job and your best work is the best way you can walk into an audition.
There's an actor you admire saying, hey, can you take a look at my resume? What do you think of my headshots? Can I practice this monologue in front of you?
To know that the casting director wants you to succeed. Like they're looking for the best person for this role and they want that to be you.
And that everybody wants you to succeed. Sounds cheesy when people say that, but it really is true.
Enjoy what you're doing.
Make like you're 7 years old again and you're playing superheroes or whatever in the backyard and just live in the environment.
It has to be for yourself. You have to find a way to find the joy in performing that material. Like it's the relationship between you and that song or that monologue.
Take your time and give yourself enough time. Don't, put yourself in a time bomb situation by, not having anything prepared until there's an audition in a week or a couple of days.
You are going in to perform for someone for 60 seconds. Like, that is what you're doing. This is your chance to perform for people. So you go in, you do your performance, and you leave. And you don't expect to get the job. If you get the job, cool, that's the icing on the cake. Awesome.
Be less concerned about whether the song fits that you've chosen.
Take a moment.
Don't be so hung up on that. Pick a song that you think you actually sing really, really well. Man, that's a strong one for you.
To talk nicely to yourself before you go in. Because I think so often we beat ourselves up and
wear clean clothes.
And I can't emphasize this enough. Please, please, please prepare material that is appropriate for you. Prepare material that's going to show you off to your best advantage. And there's so many actors that come in and I see that, something has appealed to them. And because it has appealed to you doesn't mean that this is going to be a really fabulous audition piece for you.
Improv is usually pretty good to get people loosened up and to really show who they are.
Because people can be very good at auditioning, but not good at acting, if that makes sense.
Maybe if they could get a bit more personal with the person and talk with them about the role and what they expect, and then
some people just have coffee with somebody and that's their audition.
Even just evaluating what the actor thinks about that character, like what they would think about that role, and to see if they're a fit even before they show any acting skill at all.
I fluctuate back and forth between two things. Some people have individual people make an appointment and come in and they talk to them.
Yes, I'm sure there is.
And I know usually what I do is I hold readings from the script, and I let everybody in, and I bring people up because I like to match and whatever. After I've heard everybody, I like to switch people around.
I remember learning early on that if a director already had previous experience with an actor, that they had an advantage. At least that was what I thought back then.
I really don't know. It really depends on the show, like what you need from the show, and the director and the casting director should be able to take the show that they're doing in consideration and base their audition on that.
Directors have a way of finding what they're looking for, so the process of auditioning should be tailored to them.
I mean, within the first 30 seconds, you don't need 5 minutes of an audition.
Yes, there's a way to improve it. I'm just not sure I know for sure the answer, how to do that.
And now what I realize is that if I am auditioning next to someone else and the director has worked with that person, the director knows what that person is capable of in the final performance. They understand what they're like to work with, right? So I am sort of a gamble. I'm this question mark. They can see that I can give a really good audition, but they don't know what the final product is. So I'm always going to be sort of...
But as an auditioner, you're like, I want to be able to show who I am.
Right.
So, 36 bars is hard to choose. You want 5 minutes. You want to be able to really show them who you are. But as someone on the other side of the table, you see the people immediately.
Being compared with someone and their final product. And I don't know a way around that.
No, I mean, I honestly think that the process that we're used to as actors is fine.
And it seemed like there's a lot of interest in I don't know, forming some kind of a community with the actors independent from just being in a certain production in a certain theater. Yeah. And something that I think really bonds us all together is auditioning, this thing that we all do separately, right? We all go through this process. So having some kind of a, like an open mic, but for auditioning, for the sole purpose of people coming together and being able to practice their audition materials in front of each other, and having mock callbacks, because callbacks is another one of these mysterious things that everybody does separately.
I don't know. I think the best way to do it is just the way they do it. This whole thing about someone reading for a part never made any sense to me, because the director, you can come in and say 2 lines and the director says, oh, that guy's perfect for it.
You just have to learn to have a really thick skin.
So yeah, upside is you have someone to go off of, downside is, you didn't rehearse it like you did with a monologue.
I love callbacks. So I hate auditioning and I love callbacks.
I think you need to get an idea from the get-go of what a person's talent level is.
Scenes with somebody or something from the show feels more freeing in some way.
I like to do auditions in my living room because I want people to be relaxed and all that kind of stuff. I'm not sure that that's what's going to relax people, is going to your house and being in your living room.
They really are basing their opinion on 35 seconds worth of stuff, which is not at all an indicator.
The first move is to read, sing, dance, do all those things. I just need to know, where you are in your life as far as what your experience is.
When you are working on a scene with other people in the scene, you do the scene, and then you might do it again, and a director might give you notes.
Further, that perhaps you're not the strongest dancer, but I really, really like the way you read, so I'm willing to work with that dance aspect of it, and you're going to bring this to it. So that works for me. There's a balance, right? Yeah.
I'm always surprised when you're not asked to read with your counterpart. Because so much of acting is the chemistry that happens between two people.
I think if I was auditioning someone, I would want them, because I do this with kids, when they come in the room, you can see that they're nervous, you can see that they're scared, and grown-ups are the same way. Right. They just hide it a little better. Some people, not everybody. Yeah. But to put people at ease, to let them relax, to give them the time and the space to take the space so that they can do the best that they can, so they can show you their best.
Don't make the non-dancers do the dance audition.
I think the other thing of telling people how to prepare would be take your time. Yeah. Don't rush it. Take your space. Stand there. Own the space. Look around. Get some spatial awareness going on, And maybe even start telling them a little bit about yourself before you start your audition,
I would still want to be involved in theater.
I don't know. I want to go into vocal coaching, or what I'm primarily focusing on is vocal coaching and theater management.
Because there are a lot of actors in the world, we don't need more actors. I would like to be one, but we don't need more.
I've been doing back-to-back shows for like a year now, and I get like a little cagey at this point, and I'm like, I'm just gonna stop. I'm gonna stop. And then I get like 2 days off, and I'm like,
the show I'm gonna do next?
I would love to direct.
Relent myself to the day job routine and just go home and play video games and make sure my house is clean.
Probably directing with a real answer though. I really enjoy directing because I've got this vision in my head a lot, and it's really cool to get that onto a screen for other people to see.
For me, I would make a living as a video editor because that's something I actually enjoy doing outside of theater.
I think I'd want to be behind the scenes a bit more.
Every audition I go to, I write down in a journal, I write who was in the room so that I can keep track of who I've been in front of. And I write what my experience was. And then I rate myself, which is always horrible. I always am so mean to myself.
And the thing is that we don't get a chance to really practice this craft of auditioning anywhere except for when we audition, when the only feedback you get is whether or not you're cast.
Right.
You know, which is, I'm gonna fix that someday.